The Talking Doll is a scary tale about an old woman who loves dolls and a young woman who hates them. There was an old couple who had hired a new maid to help around their house. The wife had a huge doll collection, and the maid was expected to dust them once a week. So, once a week, the maid walked into the room where the dolls were stored and looked at them in disgust. She hated dolls. While she was dusting, she came across a particularly strange doll. It was a talking doll, and it had a cord in the back. The maid was interested and pulled the cord. The doll said, "Hello." The maid pulled the cord again. "I love my mama," said the doll. The maid put the doll back and continued cleaning. A few weeks later, while dusting off the dolls, the maid accidentally knocked a doll over. It shattered as soon as it hit the ground. The old woman heard the sound and went to investigate. When she walked into the room and saw her shattered doll, a very sad look came across her face. The maid saw this quickly and said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to break her. I won't do it again." The old woman looked down at her sad, broken doll and told the maid that she could only keep her job if she promised to be extra careful around the dolls. The maid agreed. The next day, the old couple left the maid alone while they went out to run some errands. The maid was in such a bad mood that she neglected to do her job. While she was sitting in the kitchen enjoying some of the couple's fancy chocolate, the maid thought of a vicious idea. She slowly made her way into the room where the dolls were kept. She thought for a moment how sad the old woman was about her broken doll. The maid picked up a doll and said, "She must really love these dolls," and threw the doll on the floor. It shattered, and the maid smiled. She loved the feeling of breaking dolls. Something about the shattering sound pleased her. She threw more and more dolls to the floor. She was still in her doll-killing rage when the old couple came through the door. The old woman ran to her broken dolls. She looked up at the maid with a baleful expression and said, "What are you doing?" The husband, seeing his wife so upset, immediately told the maid she was fired. The maid collected her things and left in an even worse mood than before. She was so angry that later that night she snuck back into the old couple's home. Knowing they would be sound asleep, she crept into the kitchen, found the biggest knife she could, and made her way to the bedroom. The next morning, the maid returned to the house and acted like an innocent bystander and told the police that she worked for the couple. She played the sorry victim that had lost good friends. She told police that the old couple were loving, nice, caring people, and that she had no idea why anyone would want to kill them. At that point, she slowly walked into the house, saying she wished to make sure no one had hurt the old woman's precious doll collection. When she got to the talking doll, she picked it up and pulled the cord. "Hello," it said. She pulled the cord again and it said, "Why did you kill my mama?" The maid looked horrified. "What did you just say?" "Why did you kill mama?" asked the doll. The maid stared in shock. She kept pulling the cord. "Why did you kill my mama? She was a nice mama. I loved her very much. Why did you kill my mama?" The maid stared at the doll. She could not believe this was happening. "You killed my mama!" the doll screamed. The maid threw it to the ground and ran from the house. The next morning, the maid was found dead in her bed. In her arms was the talking doll. When investigators pulled the cord on the doll's back, it just kept repeating, "She killed my mama. She killed my mama. She killed my mama." The Backyard is a scary story about a young boy who sees something terrifying in his garden one night. His parents had just moved to a new house in the suburbs. Billy was eager to move in and get his own room. He picked the bedroom with the big window that looked out onto the backyard. The family quickly got their stuff moved in and then went to bed. The first night that Billy slept in that room, something very strange happened. In the middle of the night, Billy was awoken by strange moans and screams. They seemed to be coming from outside. Billy shouted for his parents, and a few seconds later they burst into his room. "What's wrong?" asked his father anxiously. "There's something in the backyard," Billy exclaimed. His parents checked and found nothing. They reassured Billy that there was nothing there and sent him back to bed. The next night, Billy heard the noises again. This time they were louder. Billy got the courage to look outside. As he peeked through the curtains, he saw 3 shadowy figures standing in the backyard. They were glaring back at him with glowing red eyes. The figures seemed to point at him as they moved closer to his window. Billy rushed into his parents' room and woke them up. He told them about the figures outside, but when they got up to look, the figures were nowhere to be seen. His parents told him that he must have been dreaming, and he reluctantly went back to bed. The next night, he heard the noises outside his window again. When he turned over in bed, he was horrified to see a bony, skeletal face staring in at him through the window. In one hand, it held a long, sharp knife. It was scratching at the window with its other hand. Trembling with fear, Billy quickly put his head under the covers. When the scratching finally stopped, Billy jumped out of bed and cautiously peeked out through the curtains. The 3 figures had disappeared. Instead, there appeared to be 3 freshly dug holes in the backyard. The next morning, Billy's parents decided to call the police to try to make sense of what had happened the night before. The police informed them that years before, 3 psychopaths had escaped from the local insane asylum. They had gone on a rampage, killing anyone they came across and terrorizing the whole town. The previous owner of the house had caught the crazed psychopaths trying to break into his house through the bedroom window. He killed the psychopaths and buried their bodies in the backyard. The police said that the 3 bodies were still buried there. The Bedroom Closet is a spooky ghost tale from Japan about 2 children who are home alone and decide to play a game of hide and seek. One day, while my parents were out, I was babysitting my little brother. We were alone in the house and decided to play a game of hide and seek. I closed my eyes and counted to 20 while my brother ran off to hide. When I finished counting, I started looking for my brother. I couldn't find him anywhere. Eventually, I went to my parents' bedroom and noticed that the door of their closet was standing ajar. "I know you're in there!" I shouted as I pulled the door open. The bedroom closet was crammed full of clothes, and when I thrust my hand into it, another hand immediately reached out from inside and grabbed me by the wrist. "Come on, I found you!" I cried, trying to pull him out. "Come out of there!" But he wouldn't come out no matter how hard I pulled. He was hiding behind all of the clothes and didn't speak a word. I started wondering what was wrong with him. Just then, I heard a voice behind me ask, "What are you doing?" I turned around and was shocked to see my little brother standing in the doorway of the bedroom. Looking back, I realized the pale white hand was still holding onto my wrist. I screamed out loud and began to panic as I desperately tried to shake myself free of its icy grip. My brother rushed over to help me, and eventually I managed to squirm out of the clutches of that pale white hand. We ran screaming from the room and rushed out of the house, standing in the street together, trembling. We waited for our parents to return. When they finally came home, we told them what had happened, and they went upstairs to search the bedroom closet. Of course, they found nothing inside, just a bunch of old clothes.